Welcome to this episode of The Wisdom of Paramahansa Yogananda, brought to you by Self-Realization Fellowship, where each week you can receive inspiration and guidance from Paramahansa Yogananda's Kriya Yoga teachings. The subject of this episode is Living in Attunement with the Divine by our beloved past president, Sri Mrinalini Mata.
Some devotees question why they have difficulty in their meditations, why they have difficulty concentrating and feeling during meditation that deep attunement with God and Guru. You know, it was Sri Mrinalini Mata who said that to keep company with the Guru doesn't mean merely to be in his physical presence, as this is sometimes impossible, but it means to be one with him in principle and to keep him in our thoughts. This applies also to our relationship with God. If throughout the day we are not in the presence of God and Guru, then it becomes very difficult when we sit to meditate for a few minutes in the evening to feel that we are in that presence. It is very difficult to gather together the scattered consciousness and the scattered thoughts that we have sown throughout the day, and quickly, easily to place them at the feet of God and Guru. Sri Mrinalini had that perfect answer when he said, it is to keep the Guru and God. Guru is simply the channel, the representative, the speaking voice of silent God. To keep them always in our thoughts, that's to be in their company, and to be one with them in principle. To be one with the Guru in principle. This is why I'm sure Gurudev is a part of our sadhana from the very, very moment we entered the ashram, from the very moment that devotees came to him. Those who were sincere, he would say to them, study my teachings, read the lessons, read the books. Not just read them, but as he said, read, mark, and inwardly digest. That is, when we study truth, when we read truth, Gurudev taught us to either underline, go back and underline those thoughts which we can apply, which we want to make a part of our consciousness, a part of our lives, or else make notes on those thoughts. Read it, mark it, and then inwardly digest it. In other words, meditate, think upon that thought. Just as if you want to enjoy the juice of a sweet orange, you have to take that orange and you have to squeeze all of that juice out of it to fully appreciate it, to fully assimilate it, to relish it. That is the same way with truth. So long as truth is merely read or heard or talked about, it remains as a mental concept only. It is just like having a library file up here in our brain. We put many, many thoughts into that file. But what use is that unless that truth is brought out and used and made a useful, applicable part of our lives? So as Gurudev said to us, know these teachings backward and forward. We are so blessed in this sadhana of Gurudev because, as you know, if you've read all that he has written and all that he has said, you will find that there is not one aspect of your life, not one problem that Maya can think to place before you, that you cannot find solace, strength, and guidance for in Gurudev's words. I have always found that because I took very seriously Gurudev's guidance to try deeply to assimilate his teachings. You know, as he said, when I am gone, the teachings will be the Guru. Through that, I will speak to you and guide you. He could say that because he knew that the sum and substance of his whole life, his mission, all that he was, he has totally, wholly shared with us in those teachings. To take those teachings, to take those truths, and to assimilate them is literally to sit at the feet of the Guru and to imbibe that wisdom. Feel, as he intended it to be, that you are sitting at his feet, and that these words are not just beautiful expressions of truth to somehow shed a little peace and a little soothing shower over the world, but these are direct words of guidance. These are directives to you personally. And by receiving from him in that way, and then by taking those principles and applying them, we do what Sri Yukteswarji said, be one with him in principle. In other words, I see so much around this world. People go to the churches, to the temples, or into the presence of holy persons, and for that period of time they feel some moments of spiritual upliftment and peace. But when they leave that environment, and similarly when we read truth and then we leave it and go about our daily duties, instead of that truth taking over, our second nature or the ego principle takes over. And we become victims, we become what you call led around by the nose by our habits, our likes and our dislikes and our desires, by that second nature of ego. And so throughout the day, instead of practicing the calmness, the love, the kindness, the peace, the striving for an intuitive understanding and attunement with God, which helps us to solve our problems, instead of using that divine will guided by discrimination and that deep determination to be the victor in life, we easily succumb to moods, doubts, depressions, discouragements. And so throughout the day, we are simply following the dictates of Maya. We have allowed delusion to steal from us our divine nature. So is it any wonder then when we sit to meditate at the end of the day, having let our minds and our consciousness wander in this garden in the brambles of delusion, and our thoughts have been so scattered and so discouraged and so filled with the myriad of perceptions that have come through these senses that have made us feel either like or rejection or happiness, pleasure, material pleasure, or sorrows and disappointments. And so then is it any wonder indeed that when we sit to meditate, our thoughts and our consciousness and even our body is still full of that restlessness. Gurudev said, if you fill the moments of your life with the thoughts of God and with the practicing of His presence, then when you need Him most, you will see that He is there. He is with you always. But if for, say, 14, 16, 18 hours a day, we are busy just with the body, we are busy with the things of this world without the thought of God, and then so many hours a day we sleep in complete delusive subconsciousness with no consciousness of the presence of God, then how can we expect, all right, now Lord, I have had my 12, 18 hours a day for myself. Now I'm going to give you 30 minutes. You must come. Give me your peace. Give me your blessing. Give me your joy. Give me all the things that I want that are going to make me feel fulfilled and contented spiritually. God is saying, oh my goodness, my little child, I have been trying all of these hours to get into your life, and you haven't let me in. And now, your thought may turn to me, but everything in your consciousness is still vibrating with that restlessness. It is still vibrating with the wrong desires and thoughts and actions that, just like a screen around us, prevents that healing, soothing, loving vibration of God's presence from entering into our thoughts and consciousness and from being felt by us. But when we are one with God, when we are one with the Guru in principle, as Sri Yukteswarji says, then we are striving throughout the day to be in tune with Him, to live in that divine presence, in that divine thought. That is, every time that a thought of discouragement or defeat comes, there should instantaneously come to the mind of the Chela those words of Gurudev in which he speaks of the power and the necessity of constantly clinging to cheerfulness, of constantly maintaining in the mind that light of hope. As he said, hope is that which lights the dark pathways of life. Under no circumstances allow that light of hope ever to be extinguished. In hope, there is constantly in our minds a positive attitude, an openness which gives us faith. Faith is the proof of things unseen. That is that which we know is true, but we have not yet experienced, and yet we know we are working for. That is faith. First we have belief. That is, we have a belief in God, a belief that we can have that which is going to make us happy, that which is going to give us divine fulfillment. Everyone starts out in sadhana having beliefs. You believe in God. That is, you say, I know the saints speak of Him. I know that the scriptures have spoken of Him. I know that occasionally I have felt a little peace or something which I think may be the response and the encouragement of God. And so we say we have a belief. But belief in the truth is so very quickly extinguished by contradictory or contrary circumstances. The minute that something comes along, something happens in our life, and that which we believed in, we see suddenly doubt creeps in. We've prayed deeply to God for perhaps divine healing or blessing in some way. And we see, oh, that is beginning to happen. Health is beginning to come in the life, in the body of my loved one. And so the belief is there. And then suddenly things turn contrary to that, and perhaps that loved one turns worse and maybe dies, then the doubt comes, because that was only belief. But one who clings deeply to truth with conviction, he gains what Guruji spoke of as hope. That, Lord, even though this belief that I had that you were going to heal this loved one, and therefore I would know that you exist, and I would know that you hear my prayers. When one goes on believing in that way or affirming that way, then he gets that determination of belief, which is hope. Lord, though this particular prayer has not been answered, still I have that hope. I have that feeling that you are there and that you have not forsaken me, that there is a deeper divine will that is manifesting, that one day I will be able to realize the purpose of that divine will. So that hope, as Gurudev said, always if that hope is there, then there is always light on our pathway through life. But when that hope deepens and becomes faith, faith is the proof of things unseen. When faith is there, there comes an intuitive conviction or realization. The difference between intellectual understanding of Gurudev's teaching or of a divine truth or of the scriptures, when it is in the intellect, it is a belief. But when it goes so deep by that it has been tested, those beliefs in you have been tested, and you cling to that hope, that ideal, that they are true, even though everything else is saying contrary-wise, then that becomes faith, or an intuitive realization. When it becomes realization, self-realization, then it cannot be contradicted anymore. Realization means that a truth has become a part of you. You will experience that when, in studying, for instance, Gurudev's teachings, you may have heard a truth expressed again and again and again, or you have read it in Gurudev's autobiography or in his lessons. You have been acquainted with it. And you say, yes, I know it, yes, I know it. But one day when something happens in your life, and that truth seems to come out from within you and expresses as a part of your being, as an absolute conviction, as something that influences your life and your actions and your every thought, then you suddenly say, oh, now I understand that truth. Then you know that that truth is no longer a belief to you, it is a realization. It has become a part of your being. It has been born in every cell of body, mind, and spirit. That is what happens when one fully becomes in tune with the Guru. One fully becomes in tune with God. Then all of the things that you have heard in Gurudev's teachings, all of that which you have been studying and trying to practice in sadhana, you become absolutely one with it. That realization comes out from within you, and then that is what you are. It is no longer what you believe or what you hope for, but it is what you are. And so, this is what is meant by being in tune with the Guru's principles. Being in tune with him in principle, and by always keeping him in your heart and in your thoughts. Surely it starts out first as practicing. And this is all that we are doing in sadhana in the beginning. We are practicing how to behave. We have to have some intellectual understanding of what we are supposed to do in proper behavior. That is why we study truth. We study it deeply, we put those thoughts into our mind, We revere those thoughts with our feelings, with our hearts, and then we try to begin to practice them, not just when we sit to meditate, but throughout every moment of every day. Whatever confronts us, the Gurudev said, just remember that whatever confronts you each moment of every day, that circumstance rightly represents the next step that your soul must take in its divine unfoldment. And so, in whatever circumstance you find yourself at any moment of the day, there should be some thought of truth there in your mental library. Pull that out and say, now this truth I must apply to this situation. And then practice it. Practice, practice, practice. Until in time, the fruits of that practice have become a part of you. One becomes a saint, one becomes a divine being when all of the time he is living in divine attunement with God. That is, with the principles, with the truths of God, such as our beloved Gurudev did. His behavior, all of his actions, all of his thoughts were always flowing in that divine channel. What is truth? He started in his sadhana with that question, what is truth? And then he began to practice those truths until in this incarnation, as he had in incarnations past, he manifested those truths in everything that he was and in everything that he did. So if we practice that kind of sadhana, if we practice attunement with oneness with those divine principles throughout the day, then when we sit to meditate and we start to practice Guru-given techniques of meditation, we find that through the day we have already put that vibration of truth, which is a harmony, a universal harmony, a universal oneness, and that very easily all of the life energies of the body, all of the thoughts that are there in the consciousness in the mind, already being in that divine trend, they very willingly turn within with the soul. Just as the temple bell summons for time for worship, so when the soul says, oh, now I am going to sit at the feet of my beloved God, then all of the subjects, you might say, of the kingdom of body and mind, instantly being geared that way, being attuned to that divine vibration, they respond, and they immediately then want to turn within with the soul and go deep into meditation. And similarly, after one has sat in meditation and has communed with God, has worshipped God in that temple of inner silence, that divine peace of God, that divine love, His divine bliss, His wisdom, these have all then been conveyed to all of the subjects of body and mind. In other words, all of the thoughts become purified by that silent divine communion. All of the cells of the body even become absolutely electrified and purified, vitalized by that period of divine communion, so that when we leave meditation, if we bring with us that blessing and that grace of God, then it also begins to help us in our everyday activities and thoughts and feelings. In other words, one helps the other. We can't behave in a restless, irritable, negative, cantankerous, critical way throughout the day and think that then we are going to have divine communion when we sit in meditation. And conversely, We cannot have a restless, negative, empty meditation where we have not really put forth our effort to gather our thoughts and feelings and to unite them to the power and wisdom and love of God, and then come out into our everyday activities and then wonder why God is so absent in helping us solve our daily problems and fulfilling our daily needs. Sadhana, as Gurudev gave it to us, is a total working with body, mind, and soul. We cannot isolate one from the other and get very far in our pursuit of God, very far in the gaining of self-realization. It all goes together, dear ones. Guruji has made it so very, very simple for us. His teachings are so sublime, and yet he has made them so applicable, so understandable, so all appealing, not only to mind, but to heart and to every aspect of our lives. As he said to us, you don't realize how eager God is to enter into your life and to give you happiness and fulfillment. We cry in this world and we complain about our difficulties and our sufferings. But he said, don't you realize it is God who is crying, because it is none other than He who is in these body temples, and you are inflicting so much suffering on that Divine One who is within you. It is He who is crying. It is He who is saying, oof, open up this stuffy temple of your life. Give me some fresh air of goodwill, of love, of positive divine action. Let me express. Don't make me just a prisoner in this darkness, in this dark temple, made so by the closing of the doors of the divine temple within, by the bolts of delusion, by the locks of delusion. Take those off. Let the divine which is within come out. And the way we open up, that is the meaning of sadhana, is to unlock or unbind ourselves, removing the knot points in our lives that are tying us to delusion, that are tying us to this body consciousness and to ego. Again, to sum it up, take truth, read it, hear it, study it, then deeply assimilate it, then draw upon that to influence your everyday life and activity, every thought and activity in your everyday life, and then deeply practice the Guru-given techniques of meditation that take you to the source of that truth by a concentrated mind and a loving heart. Draw as much as you are able from the divine source of that truth to vitalize it, so it is not just a thought in the mind, but that it is a living part of your own self in every cell of the body, mind and spirit. And then again, take that divinity with you into your everyday life and activity. Let it be a constant exchange between action, as Gurudev taught us, and meditation. The right sadhana is right action balanced with right meditation. And that surely leads to self-realization, to enlightenment, to oneness with God, which is the goal of sadhana. God bless you.
This has been a production of Self-Realization Fellowship, a non-profit organization founded by Paramahansa Yogananda in 1920. For more information about Self-Realization Fellowship and Paramahansa Yogananda, please visit yogananda.org.